I can double my inheritance, I promised. Instead, the casino took every last cent. My name is Marcus. I'm 28, and I supervise a warehouse night shift. 3 months ago, I stood at my grandmother's grave holding a check for $47,000. 43 years of her cleaning hotel rooms, walking to work to save bus fare, storing quarters in coffee cans. She raised me after my mother left. She never spent a dime on herself. The plan was simple: turn her sacrifice into something bigger. A house. A future. Proof I was worth all those double shifts she worked with bad knees. The casino felt like an office at first. Controlled, logical, mathematical. I kept perfect records. I played by the book. I knew when to walk away. Until I didn't. The calls from work started gentle. The bills turned red. My ex showed up crying. I told everyone I was up 8,000 while my hands shook and the real number ate me alive. 6 weeks. That's all it took. From inheritance check to borrowing against tomorrow to sitting at an empty table with $17, smelling like 3 days without sleep. My grandmother saved every penny for 4 decades. I lost it chasing one more hand, one more system, one more night to fix everything. When someone gives you their whole life savings and you promise to honor it, what happens when that promise meets a room that never closes? The first time, Marcus sat at my table. He placed his chips in neat stacks of 5 and asked if I could break 100. It was a Tuesday afternoon in February, slow enough that I could hear the penny slots chirping 3 sections over. And he had that look, overdressed. For a casino, checking his phone between hands. Probably killing time before something important. His grandmother's funeral program peeked out from his jacket pocket. I'd been dealing blackjack at the Riverside Casino for 11 years by then. 11 years of watching money change hands, of memorizing the way hope looks when someone doubles down on 11, of learning that everyone who sits at my table carries a story they're trying to rewrite. Marcus didn't fit the usual categories. Not the retiree burning through pension checks. Not the construction worker celebrating Friday. Not the desperate type who reeks of last chances. He played basic strategy perfectly. Hit on 16 against my 10. Stood on 12 against my 5. Never took insurance. When he won, he'd separate the winnings from his original stack, keeping his baseline visible. When he lost, he'd pause, calculate something on his phone, then place the exact same. Bet again. You play like you've studied this, I said, shuffling for the next hand. YouTube videos, he said. Figured if I was going to do this, I should do it right. The funeral program shifted when he reached for chips. Evelyn Townsend, it read. Sunrise. 1947. Sunset 2024. Sorry for your loss, I said, nodding toward the program that he touched it gently, like he'd forgotten it was showing. My grandmother raised me since I was 9. He tucked it deeper into his pocket. She left me something. Just want to do right by it. I understood inheritances. 3 years earlier, Sarah and I had gotten $65,000 when her father died. Life insurance payout that was supposed to be our future. We spent it on 4 rounds of IVF that failed one after another, each failure carving out a little more of what we used to be. Now she slept in the guest room, and I dealt cards from 2 p.m. to 2 a.m., and that money existed only as a silence between us. Marcus played for exactly 1 hour. When the shift supervisor called for dealer rotation, he colored up his chips. He'd turned 500 into 540 and slid a green chip across the felt. For you, he said. My grandmother always said to tip people who work hard. I tapped it on the table edge. The sound every dealer knows means a tokay going into the box. Good luck, I said, though I knew luck had nothing to do with it. Math ran this place. Math and time. See you around, he said, and I figured I wouldn't. The careful ones rarely came back. That night, I got home to find Sarah eating Chinese takeout in the living room, her laptop open to job listings in Columbus. Her sister Michelle lived there, had been trying to get Sarah to move for years. How was work? She asked without looking up. Someone won $40 and acted like they'd beat the system. So a normal day, we used to talk about real things. About the hormone shots that left bruises on her stomach. About my hands going numb from dealing 8-hour shifts. About trying one more time, maybe with a different doctor. But those conversations had stopped 6 months ago when the last doctor said the problem wasn't fixable. There's leftovers in the fridge, she said. I ate standing at the kitchen counter, looking at our wedding photo on the wall. 7 years ago, both of us believing we had time to figure everything out. In the photo, Sarah's laughing at something I'd whispered right before the photographer clicked. I couldn't remember what I'd said. My phone buzzed. Text from my supervisor about picking up an extra shift tomorrow. I texted back yes. The mortgage was due in a week. Sarah's car needed new brakes. And somewhere in this city, Marcus was probably looking at his $40 profit, thinking he'd found an edge. I went to bed in the empty master bedroom. Sarah's breathing carried through the wall, steady and far away. Tomorrow, Marcus would be back. They always came back when they won the first time. Marcus returned the next afternoon at exactly 2:15, right after my shift started. He chose my table, even though 3 others were empty. The lucky dealer, he said, sitting in the same spot as yesterday. They're all the same cards, I said, but I smiled. After 11 years, you learn to appreciate the ones who still believe in luck. This time, he bought in for 1,000. 10 crisp hundreds that he laid on the felt like he was making a presentation. I spread them for the cameras, called out, changing 1,000, and slid him his chips after the supervisor nodded. How'd the rest of yesterday go? I asked, dealing. The first hand. Went to work. Brennan Logistics, over on Industrial. I run the night shift warehouse. He hit on 15, caught a 6 for 21. Been there 6 years. Good benefits. Steady pay. I showed a 10, flipped a 7. He won. The early wins are the dangerous ones. Your grandmother must have been proud, I said, collecting cards for the next hand. She was the one who got me the job. Knew somebody who knew somebody. Marcus. Bet 50 this time, double yesterday's standard. Worked as a maid at the Marriott downtown for 43 years. Never missed a shift. Not once. The way he said it, I could tell this mattered. The never missing part. That's where the money came from. He continued, getting a blackjack. $47,000. Can you believe that? 43 years of cleaning rooms, and she saved 47 grand. I paid him 3-2 on the blackjack. $75 in 15 seconds. More than his grandmother probably made in a day. Going to do something smart with it? I asked, though the fact he was sitting here suggested otherwise. House, he said immediately. Been looking at places in Riverside Heights. Nothing fancy. 3 bedrooms, little yard. If I can grow this to 60,000, I'll have 20% down. No mortgage insurance. He'd done the math. They always did the math. A woman sat down at third base, ending our conversation. Marcus played quietly for the next hour, that same disciplined approach. But the bets crept up. 50 became 75. 75 became 100. He was up 600 when his phone rang. Yeah, I'll be there, he said into it. No, I'm not sick. Just handling some stuff with my grandmother's estate. He hung up, looked at me. That was true, right? This money is part of her estate. Sure, I said, dealing another hand that he played until 3:30, left up $800, and tipped me another green chip. As he walked away, I saw him typing numbers into his phone calculator, probably figuring out how many more winning sessions. He'd need to hit 60,000. That night, Sarah was in the kitchen when I got home, making actual dinner for the first time in weeks. Pasta with the good sauce. Garlic bread. A bottle of wine open on the counter. What's the occasion? I asked. Michelle called. The hospital in Columbus is hiring. They need someone with my experience. She wouldn't meet my eyes. The pay is better. Cost of living's lower. I poured myself wine. We both knew this wasn't about money. When's the interview? I didn't say I was taking it. But you are. She turned back to the stove. We can't keep living like this, dealing cards to pay for a house. We don't need 3 bedrooms for 2 people who can't stand to share one. Sarah, that kid you mentioned yesterday, the one who won $40. She finally looked at me. You talked more about him than you've talked about us in months. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that I'd just mentioned Marcus in passing. But she wasn't wrong. I'd thought about him all through my shift, wondering if he'd come back, if he'd stick to his system, if he'd be different from the hundreds of others who'd sat at my table with. Inheritance money and a plan. His name is Marcus, I said. Lost his parents young. Grandmother raised him. Left him 47,000. And you think he's going to lose it all? I know he is. She drained the pasta, her movements sharp. Then, why do you care? I didn't have an answer. Or maybe I did, but couldn't say it. Because watching Marcus lose would be like watching something I could understand, a destruction I could calculate in chips and cards instead of hormones and heartbeats that never came. Dinner's ready, Sarah said that we ate in silence. Afterward, she went to the guest room. I heard her on the phone with Michelle, laughing about something I wasn't part of. I did the dishes and thought about Marcus, somewhere across town, probably looking at real estate listings, calculating mortgage payments, $47,000 sitting in his account like a promise he was about to break. By the second Friday, Marcus's routine had changed. He still arrived at 2:15, still sat in the same seat, but now he carried a small notebook where he tracked every bet. The neat stacks of chips had become Messier piles. The hundreds had become 500s. Went upstairs yesterday, he told me, meaning the high-limit room. Minimum bet's too high, though. Variance could kill me before the math evens out. He was learning the language. Variance. Expected value. Standard deviation. The words every gambler learns right before they lose. Everything. But you keep coming back to the $10 table, I said. You're my lucky dealer. He said it like a joke, but his eyes were serious. Up 3,000 since I started. That's real money. It wasn't, though. I'd been counting. He was down 12,000. That the human brain isn't built to track money during gambling. Winners get celebrated, losses get minimized, and the running total becomes a story we tell ourselves. I watched Marcus flip through his notebook, pointing to winning sessions, skipping pages where the numbers went red. His phone rang. Constantly now. He'd silence it without looking, but I caught glimpses of the screen. Diane. Work. Diane. Diane. Everything okay? I asked after the fifth call in an hour. Supervisor at the warehouse. Thinks she owns me just because I missed a few shifts. He bet 300 on the next hand, lost, and immediately bet 600. I'm sick. People get sick. I wanted to tell him that calling in sick to gamble was a line you couldn't uncross. That once work knew you were unreliable, they'd find reasons to let you go. But dealers don't give advice. We just deal. Around 4 p.m., his luck turned. Lost 8 hands in a row, the kind of streak that happens to everyone but feels personal when it's your money. He reached for his wallet, pulled out more hundreds, then stopped. I'm being stupid, he said. I know I'm being stupid. Take a break, I suggested. Get some food. Come back fresh. He laughed, bitter. You know what my grandmother used to eat for lunch? Same thing every day for 20 years. Peanut butter sandwich and an apple. Said restaurant food was for rich people and fools. He put the hundreds back in his wallet, played out his remaining chips, and lost them all. Instead of leaving, he moved to the next table, bought in for another 1,000. I watched him from my spot. The dealer there, Crystal, was new. Young. Still smiled when players tipped her. Marcus played faster at her table, his disciplined strategy falling apart. When you're chasing losses, any dealer looks lucky except the one who just took your money. That night, I got home to find Sarah packing. Not dramatically, not making a statement. Just methodically filling a suitcase with work clothes. Interviews Monday, she said. Michelle says I can stay with her for the weekend. See how it feels. It's just a weekend, I repeated. Yeah, but we both knew better. Once someone starts leaving, they're already gone. There's this player, I said, not knowing why I was saying it. Marcus, the one with the inheritance. He's spiraling. Down 12 grand, but thinks he's up 3. She folded a blouse, precise. Why are you telling me this? Because I keep thinking about the fertility treatments. How we convinced ourselves each round was an investment. How we tracked the wins. Every good hormone level, every positive sign, but ignored the failures piling up. Sarah stopped packing. For a moment, I thought she might cry. Instead, she zipped the suitcase. The difference is we were trying to create something, she said. He's just watching it disappear. After she left, I sat in our living room with her absence filling the space. The furniture we'd bought together looked wrong with just me in it. I pulled out my phone, did something I hadn't done in years, calculated my lifetime tokes. 11 years. Average of 100 per shift. 5 shifts per week. 50 weeks per year. The number was staggering. Over $400,000 had passed through my hands in tips alone. Other people's money, given in gratitude for helping them lose. I'd saved most of it. Sarah and I had separate accounts after the IVF disaster. But what was I saving for? My phone buzzed. Text from the supervisor about Marcus leaving his driver's license at the table. Could I bring it when I came in tomorrow? I looked at the license. Marcus Townsend, 28 years old. The address was in a decent part of town, probably where he lived with his grandmother. In the photo, he was smiling. Tomorrow he'd be down 15,000, maybe 20. The calls from work would get more insistent. The notebook would get abandoned. And I'd keep dealing, watching the 47,000 turn into nothing, the same way Sarah and I had turned into nothing, one lost bet at a time. I put the license in my wallet. Tomorrow I'd give it back to him. Tomorrow he'd lose more money. Tomorrow Sarah would be in Ohio, deciding whether to come back. The math of it was simple. The math always was. Week 3, Marcus started arriving earlier and staying later. Tuesday afternoon, he was already at my table when my shift started, playing with the day shift dealer. His eyes were red. Same clothes as yesterday. Couldn't sleep, he explained when I took over. Kept thinking about probability distributions. He had printouts now. Casino game statistics, betting strategies, something called the Kelly criterion. The papers were coffee-stained, marked with desperate calculations. My grandmother saved everything, he said, arranging his chips. You know she still had the receipt from my first pair of school shoes? September 1995, $12 at Payless. His phone buzzed. Diane again. This time he answered. I told you, I have the flu. His voice was flat, practiced. No, I don't need to bring a doctor's note. That's insulting. He hung up, bet $500, lost. She doesn't trust me, he said. 6 years of perfect attendance, and suddenly, she needs documentation. I wanted to tell him that trust, once broken, never fully returns. Sarah had taught me that after the third failed IVF cycle, when I'd suggested we take a loan for one more try, and she'd looked at me like I was a stranger. Your supervisor's just doing her job, I said instead. Her job is to manage the warehouse, not my life. He doubled down on a hard 12, caught a face card, busted. You know what my problem is? I've been too conservative. The math says with proper bankroll management, you can survive the variance. The math. Every losing gambler's religion. By Thursday, his appearance had deteriorated further. Stubble becoming a patchy beard. Dress, shirt untucked. He'd developed a tell, rubbing his grandmother's funeral program between his fingers like a worry stone. 22,000 left, he announced, though I hadn't asked. Still plenty to work with. He was lying. I'd watched him hit the ATM 3 times today, checking multiple accounts. The way he counted his chips suggested he had less than 15,000. That evening, Sarah called from Ohio. First time we'd talked since she left. The interview went well, she said. They offered me the position. That's fast. They need someone immediately. Their IVF coordinator quit last month. The irony of it, Sarah running an IVF clinic after ours failed, wasn't lost on either of us. Marcus came in drunk today, I said, changing the subject. Not sloppy drunk, but enough that I could smell it. Lost 3,000 in an hour. Why do you keep telling me about him? I don't know. Yes, you do. Her voice was gentle, the way it used to be. You're watching him lose what we lost. Except he's losing it at a table you're dealing. After we hung up, I stood in our kitchen, my kitchen now, and looked at the mortgage statement. $700 left in savings after the fertility treatments. $400,000 in my separate account from 11 years of tips. We could have tried IVF a dozen more times. Could have adopted. Could have done anything except what we did, which was nothing. Friday afternoon, Marcus's supervisor showed up in person. Diane Chun had never been in a casino before. I could tell by how she stood at the entrance, eyes adjusting to the artificial twilight, overwhelmed by the sounds of machines and desperation dressed as entertainment. She wore warehouse blues with a manager's badge. Her face carried the exhaustion of someone trying to save someone who didn't want saving. I'm looking for Marcus Townsend, she told the floor supervisor. I know he's here. Policy meant we couldn't confirm or deny. But Marcus was at my table, so he heard her voice carry across the floor. He hunched lower, like a kid hiding from a parent. Ma'am, we can't discuss our guests, the supervisor said. Diane spotted him anyway. Walked straight to my table, stood behind his chair. Marcus. He didn't turn. I'm on medical leave. No, you're not. You never filed the paperwork. 8 missed shifts. The union can't protect you if you don't follow protocol. I'll file it tomorrow. Tomorrow's Saturday. He finally turned. Diane, please. Not here. She looked at his chips, maybe $2,000. Then at his bloodshot eyes, then at me. I kept my face neutral, professional. Just another dealer. Your grandmother called me once. Diane said quietly. When you first started. Wanted to make sure we were taking care of you. Said you were all she had. Marcus flinched like she'd slapped him. Diane placed a business card on the table. Monday. Morning, 7 a.m. If you're not there, I have to post your position. She left without waiting for an answer. Marcus stared at the card, then pushed it toward me with his next bet. Throw that away. He said that I slipped it into my pocket instead. When he wasn't looking, I read it. Diane Shun, Night Operations Manager, Brennan Logistics. Her cell number handwritten on the back. Marcus played angry after that. Splitting tens. Hitting on 17. The kind of plays that made other gamblers shake their heads. He lost 5,000 in 2 hours. You know what the problem is? He said, down to his last few chips. Everyone thinks small. My grandmother thought small. 43 years for 47,000. That's barely 1,000 a year saved. She raised you. I reminded him. She could have done more. Could have. Invested. Could have taken risks. He bet his last chips, lost. Instead, she played it safe and died tired. He left without tipping. First time since he'd started coming. That night, I called Diane's number from the parking lot. He's in trouble, I said when she answered. The inheritance is almost gone. Who is this? Someone who's watched this before. He needs help. He needs his job. It's all he has left. She paused. His grandmother's house is in foreclosure. Did you know that? I didn't. Second mortgage to pay for her cancer treatments. Marcus doesn't even know yet. The bank's been calling the warehouse. After she hung up, I sat in my car watching people stream into the casino. Friday night. Payday for most of them. They'd lose. It by dawn. The weekend before week 4 was when Marcus broke completely. Saturday, he arrived at noon, hours before my shift. By the time I got there, other dealers were already talking about him. Lost 10,000 at the poker table. Accused another player of marking cards. Security had to intervene. Your friend's on tilt. Crystal told me during break. He's not my friend. He asks about you, though. When you're working. If you have kids. Whether you like your job. I found that unsettling. In 11 years, few players had wondered about my life beyond the table. Marcus appeared at my section around 8 p.m., looking destroyed. Same clothes 3 days running now. Hands shaking from caffeine or exhaustion or both. Need to tell you something, he said, sitting down. About my grandmother. He pulled out his phone, showed me a photo. Easter Sunday last year. Both of them smiling outside a church. She was tiny, proud, wearing a hat that belonged to a different era. Evelyn, he said. Everyone called her Evie. Except me. I called her Grandma. She looks kind, I said. She was too kind. Gave money to everyone who asked. That's why there was only 47,000. Should have been more. He bought in for 5,000. Cash I was sure he didn't have. Played. One hand. Won. Then pushed everything forward. All of it. I asked. All of it. I dealt him 19. Strong hand. I showed a 6. Even stronger position. He should stand. Hit me, he said. Marcus, you have 19. Hit me. I dealt him a 7. Bust. 5,000 gone in 30 seconds. That he laughed, bright and broken. Know what she said before she died? Take care of yourself. Not take care of the money. Just take care of yourself. He walked to the bathroom. I thought he'd left, but he came back an hour later with red eyes and 5,000 more. Where'd that come from? I asked. Payday loan. For 100% interest. He showed me the paperwork like it was an achievement. They gave me 5 minutes to decide. He lost it in 3 hours. Sunday was worse. He'd been awake for 48 hours straight, surviving on energy drinks and whatever pills kept him vertical. Couldn't follow basic strategy anymore. Hit when he should stand, stood when he should hit. Other players left the table rather than watch. During my break, I found him in the bathroom, crying. I can't stop, he said. I know I should stop. But if I stop now, it's really gone. I broke every protocol. Sat next to him on the bathroom floor. It's already gone, I said. No, I'm only down 30-something. If I can get one good run, Marcus. Your grandmother worked 43 years for that money. He looked at me with eyes that had given up making sense of things. I know, he whispered. I know. But knowing and stopping were different things. He went back to the tables. I went back to dealing. That night, I came home to divorce papers on the kitchen table. Sarah's lawyer had been thorough. She wanted nothing from my tips, just a clean split of the house and shared debt that I signed everywhere marked with yellow tabs. What else was there to do? Monday morning, Marcus didn't show for the first time since he'd started coming. His absence felt wrong, like a missing tooth. Your boyfriend finally tapped out? Asked Leonard, one of the regulars who'd watched Marcus's deterioration with the fascination people reserve for car crashes. He's not my boyfriend. Whatever he was, he owes me $50. Borrowed it Saturday for sure thing at the poker table. By afternoon, rumors circulated. Someone saw Marcus at the tribal casino 40 miles north. Someone else heard he'd been at the dog track. The stories multiplied, each worse than the last. I couldn't shake the anxiety. Kept checking my phone, though Marcus didn't have my number. Kept looking at the entrance, expecting him to stumble through. You okay? Crystal asked. During shift change. You seemed distracted. Just tired. But it was more than that. Marcus's absence felt like Sarah's absence. A space that exposed how much I'd come to depend on watching someone else fall apart. That night, I couldn't sleep. The apartment felt too quiet, too empty. Sarah had taken her white noise machine. The silence was specific, shaped like failure. At 3 a.m. I drove past the address on Marcus's driver's license. Modest house in Riverside Heights. The same neighborhood he'd wanted to buy into. Lights were on in the front room. His car wasn't in the driveway. I sat there 20 minutes, watching shadows move behind curtains. Maybe family members. Maybe creditors. Maybe just the TV he'd left on. Tuesday morning, he returned looking like he'd died and been badly resurrected. Bloodshot eyes sunk in dark circles. 3 days stubble becoming a desperate beard. Hands shaking so bad, he could barely stack chips. Where were you? I asked. Everywhere. He laughed, sharp and bitter. Did you know there are 17 casinos within a 2-hour drive? I hit 9 of them. How much? Down to 8,000. But I figured something out. He leaned forward, conspiratorial. The pattern. Each casino has different peak hours, different player pools. If I rotate, Marcus. No, listen. The math works if you spread the risk. He was beyond reason now. That place where gambling becomes religion and everyone's a heretic who doesn't believe. Crystal passed our table, caught my eye. Mouthed, he okay? I shook my head slightly. He wasn't. Marcus played like someone racing a clock. No pause between hands. No celebration of wins. No acknowledgement of losses. Just bet, play, bet, play, bet, play. The mechanical repetition of someone trying to outrun thinking. His phone rang constantly. He'd turned off the sound, but I could see it lighting up in his pocket. Diane. Mom. Unknown. Diane. Diane. You should answer, I suggested. Can't. Told them I'm in the hospital. Psychiatric hold. If I answer, they'll know I'm lying. They already know. He looked at me then, really looked at me. How long have you been doing this? 11 years. You ever want to play? Flip sides. Every day. But you don't. I've seen how it ends. He nodded, went back to his cards. Lost another 1,000. Won 200. Lost the 200. My grandmother's house is being foreclosed, he said suddenly. Found out yesterday. Second mortgage I didn't know about. So he knew. I'm sorry, I said. She mortgaged her house to pay for treatments that didn't work and left me money to fix my life that I'm losing trying to fix my life. It's almost poetic. By the end of my shift, he was down to 5,000. Still had the payday loan papers in his pocket, now crumpled from nervous handling. I clocked out, walked to my car, sat there watching the casino entrance. Marcus came out an hour later, walked to his car, sat there too. We were 2 men in separate cars, staring at nothing, waiting for different things we couldn't name. Marcus's explosion happened on Wednesday. He'd been banned from my table after accusing me of dealing seconds, a cheating technique I didn't even know how to do. You're setting me up, he'd screamed, loud enough for half the casino to hear. Every time I bet big, you give me shit cards. Security moved him to Crystal's section. I watched from my table as he spiraled further, arguing with other players, demanding to see the cards before betting, insisting the shuffle machine was rigged. The floor manager, Kevin, pulled me aside. During break. Your friend's becoming a problem. He's not my friend. Whatever he is, he's about one incident from being banned. Might want to warn him. But warning Marcus was like warning fire not to burn. He'd passed the point where consequences mattered. Crystal found me in the break room, visibly shaken. He called me a thief, she said. Said I was signaling other players. Gary, what's wrong with him? He's lost almost everything. Money. Everything. She was too new to understand. Still believed people could lose money and walk away intact. Hadn't yet learned that the money was just the visible part of what disappeared. Thursday, Marcus's ex-girlfriend appeared. Tanya Washington was beautiful, in that exhausted way of people who care too much about lost causes. She found me during a slow period, introduced herself with an apology. I know this is weird, but Marcus's cousin told me he's been here every day. Lost his inheritance. I can't discuss customers, I said. I'm not asking you to. I'm just. She paused, gathered herself. His father was a gambler. Left when Marcus was 11. Just disappeared one day. Marcus swore he'd never be like him. People change. No, people reveal themselves. She looked around the casino, taking in the manufactured hope. Marcus doesn't know this, but I kept in touch with his grandmother. She knew about his father's problem. It's why she saved so obsessively. Insurance against genetics. But she gave him cash. She believed he was different. Had to believe it. He was all she had left. Marcus appeared then, heading for the ATM, saw Tanya, froze. Don't, he said. Mark? I said don't. He walked past her to the ATM, tried 3 cards. All declined. Punched the machine hard enough that security started moving. Sir. They warned that he raised his hands, surrender style, backed away. Walked to my table even though he was banned from it. 5,000, he said. I need 5,000. Marcus, you're not allowed. I'll pay you back tomorrow. Swear to God. Just 5,000. Kevin arrived, hand on his radio. Sir, you need to leave this table. Marcus looked at me with complete desperation. Tell them I'm good for it. Tell them. Let's go, Kevin said, hand on Marcus's shoulder. Marcus shrugged him off. Don't touch me. I'm a customer. Not anymore. Kevin signaled security. You're banned. 24 hours. Come back tomorrow if you can behave. They escorted him out. Tanya followed. Through the glass doors, I watched them argue in the parking lot. She was crying. He was gesturing wildly. Eventually, she drove off alone. Marcus sat on the curb for an hour before calling someone to pick him up. That was intense. Crystal said that IT was Thursday night. Sarah would be settling into her new life. In Columbus, Marcus would be calculating how to get money for tomorrow. I'd be dealing cards to other people heading toward the same cliff. The math of it never changed. House edge was house edge. Time was time. And everyone thought they'd be different until they weren't. Friday morning, Tanya came back. This time she brought reinforcements. An older man who had to be Marcus's uncle and a woman who looked like she'd been crying for days. That's his aunt. Crystal whispered. They were here earlier, asking questions. They approached my table during a lull. The uncle, Jerome, was direct. We know Marcus lost the inheritance. We need to know how much. I can't. Don't give me that corporate bullshit. His voice was controlled fury. That boy's grandmother was my mother. That money was her life. The aunt touched his arm. Jerome. No. Patricia. Mom saved every penny for that boy. Walked to work in snowstorms. Ate peanut butter sandwiches every day for 20 years. And he blew it in what, a month? 6 weeks, I said, breaking protocol. They all looked at me. It took 6 weeks, I repeated. $47,000. Patricia started crying again. Jerome's jaw tightened. Tanya looked like she'd expected this, but hoped for different. Is he in debt too? Tanya asked. Payday loans. I don't know how much. His grandmother's house is in foreclosure, Patricia said. We just found out. She took a second mortgage for her cancer treatments. Never told anyone. Marcus knows, I said. How? The bank called his work. They absorbed this. 3 people trying to figure out how to save someone who was already gone. His father was the same way, Jerome said finally. My brother. Lost his family, his job, his mind. Died in a motel room in Reno with $17 in his pocket. Marcus isn't his father, Tanya said. No, he's worse. His father didn't have anything to lose. Marcus had everything. They left without asking anything else. What was there to ask? 2 hours later, Marcus appeared in the parking lot. Band meant he couldn't come inside, but he stood at the entrance, visible through the glass. Holding something, security wouldn't let him in. He kept holding up what looked like a wooden box. After an hour, Kevin sent me out to talk to him. 5 minutes, Kevin said. Then he goes, or we call police. Marcus looked worse than ever. Clothes stained with something that might have been food or vomit. Eyes unfocused. The box in his hands was mahogany, ornate. My grandmother's jewelry, he said. Worth at least 5,000. Appraised last year. Marcus, I'll sell it to you. For 1,000. Cash. I can't. 3,000. Marcus, stop. 2,000, and it's yours. There's a ring worth that. Alone. I looked in the box. Modest pieces. A pearl necklace. Gold wedding band. Silver bracelet with Evelyn engraved. The accumulated treasures of a working woman's lifetime. Your grandmother would want you to keep these. My grandmother's dead. His voice cracked. Dead people don't want anything. Go home, Marcus. I don't have a home. Bank's taking it. Jobs. Gone. Tanya won't answer my calls. He thrust the box at me. Please. Just 2,000. I can turn it into 10. Into 20. Get back to even. You're 45,000 in the hole. You'll never get even. He looked at me like I'd slapped him. The number, said out loud, made it real. 1,000, he whispered. Please. I pulled out my wallet. 11 years of tips had taught me to carry cash. I had 300 on me. This is all I have. I lied, handing it to him, but he took it without counting. Gave me the box. Thank you. He walked away, turned back. Tell Crystal I'm sorry. About calling her a thief. I will. And Gary, he used my name for the first time. You were a good dealer. It wasn't your fault. He walked to his car. I stood, holding his grandmother's jewelry, watching him drive toward whatever casino would take his last $300. Week 5 started with Marcus calling the casino, trying to get his ban lifted. I heard Kevin's side of the conversation. No, sir. 24 hours means tomorrow. No, I can't make exceptions. Sir, threatening legal action won't. Sir? Marcus had hung up. Your boys lost it, Kevin told me. Talking about discrimination. Says we took his money then banned him when he was down. He's not my boy. Sure. Monday afternoon, a man in a cheap suit came looking for Marcus. Process server, probably. Or collections. They had a particular walk, these people who chased bad debt. Haven't seen him, I told the man. When you do, give him this. He handed me an envelope. His aunt filed a restraining order. He's not to come within 500 feet of her house. After he left, I opened the envelope. Marcus had shown up at 3 a.m., demanding money. When they wouldn't answer, he'd broken a window. Patricia hadn't pressed charges, just wanted him to stay away. Tuesday, Marcus found a way around the ban. Sent. In a proxy, skinny kid named Tyler who looked barely legal. Tyler would place bets based on text from Marcus, who was watching from the parking lot through binoculars. It lasted 2 hours before security figured it out. Ban them both. This time for a month. Pathetic, Crystal said, sitting in his car with binoculars. But I understood it. The desperate need to stay connected to the thing destroying you. Sarah and I had done the same with fertility treatments, finding new doctors, new methods, new ways to hurt ourselves with hope. Wednesday. Marcus's Aunt Patricia came back alone. I need to understand, she said. Help me understand how someone loses $47,000. I explained house edge, mathematical certainty, the gambler's fallacy, how hope becomes desperation becomes delusion. But he's smart, she said. College degree. Good job. Smart people often lose the most. They think they can outsmart math. She pulled out a photo. Marcus at maybe 10, with his grandmother at what looked like his elementary school graduation. Both beaming. She raised him after my brother left. Gave up everything. Never traveled, never remarried, never bought anything nice for herself. Her voice broke. She died thinking she'd saved him. Maybe she did. This had to happen eventually. At least it happened now, while he's young enough to recover. You think he'll recover? I thought about Marcus in the parking lot with binoculars. The payday loans. The broken window. His father dying in Reno with $17. Some people do, I said. She left the photo on the table. I picked it up, studied young Marcus's face. Before he knew about variance and expected value. Before, he believed he could multiply love into money. Thursday was quiet. No Marcus sightings. No family visits. Just regular players losing regular money in regular ways. During break, I called Sarah in Columbus. How's the new job? Good. Busy. We're doing 12 cycles a week. That's a lot of hope. That's a lot of heartbreak. She paused. How's your gambler? Gone. Banned. Lost everything. Did you try to help? I bought his grandmother's jewelry for $300. Gary. I know. No, you don't. You think you helped, but you just gave an addict money for one more fix. She was right. She was always right about the important things. I'm pregnant, she said suddenly. Not from. It was after I got here. Someone from work. We're not together. But I'm keeping it. The news hit me like a player getting dealt two aces. Joy and pain split perfectly. Congratulations, I managed. Thanks. I should go. After she hung up, I sat in the break room holding the phone. Sarah was having the baby we couldn't have. Marcus was in a parking lot somewhere, scheming to get back in. I was about to deal 6 more hours of blackjack to people I'd forget by. Morning, Friday, end of week 5. Marcus made the news. Friday's news was just a brief mention. Local man arrested at casino for trespassing. No name, but the description fit Marcus. Time matched to 3 a.m. at the tribal casino north of town. I found out details from a dealer there who sometimes played at Riverside on his nights off. Dude was sleeping in his car in our parking lot, he said. Security asked him to leave. He freaked out, said he was a customer, had rights. When they insisted, he tried to run inside. Took 3 guards to stop him. What happened? Cops came. Guy was crying about his grandmother. Made no sense. They took him for psychiatric evaluation. I thought about calling Patricia, telling her where Marcus was. But what good would it do? She had a restraining order. Jerome had written him off. Tanya had disappeared back into her life. Saturday morning, Marcus showed up at my apartment that I don't know how he found my address. Maybe followed me home one night. Maybe social media. Didn't matter. He was there at 7 a.m., looking like he'd escaped from somewhere. I need the jewelry back, he said through my door chain. Marcus, you can't be here. I'll buy it back. 500. He held up cash. Wrinkled 20s that looked stolen or borrowed or worse. Where'd you get that? Doesn't matter. Just give me the jewelry. I opened the door fully, saw him clearly. He'd lost weight. Clothes hanging loose. Eyes sunk, so deep they looked bruised. The psychiatric hold hadn't helped. It's gone, I lied. The jewelry was in my bedroom closet, waiting for someday when I'd figure out what to do with it. You sold it? Yes. He sat down on my doorstep, put his head in his hands. She wore that pearl necklace to my high school graduation. The ring was from my grandfather. Married 51 years. Marcus, I'm down to $17. He laughed, ugly and sharp. Started with $47,000. Down to $17. That's a hell of a return rate. You need help. I need money. No, you need help. He stood up, manic energy returning. You dealers, you all say that. Like you care. But you don't. You just deal cards and take tips and watch people die. He wasn't wrong. Your grandmother would want you to get help. I tried. Stop talking about her. You didn't know her. I know she worked 43 years as a hotel maid. He finished my sentence, mocking. You think that makes her a saint? She was gone all the time. Missed my games, my concerts, my everything. Just work and save. Work and save. For what? For this. He gestured at himself. This ruined thing he'd become. She saved for you, I said. She saved for herself. To feel like she mattered. Like those 43 years meant something. His voice broke, and I proved they didn't. Week 6 began with Marcus hitting bottom in the most visible way possible. Monday morning, he was at my table with his last $17, having somehow talked his way past the band. He'd been awake for 36 hours. I could smell it on him, cigarettes, energy drinks, and that particular stench of desperation that seeps from your pores when you've crossed into territory you can't come back from. How'd you get in? I asked. Told them I was here for the restaurant. Then just walked over. He placed his $17 on the felt. One last hand. Winner take all. Marcus, 17, won't even cover minimum bet. Then spot me 3. I can't. His phone rang. The caller ID said Diane. He let it ring. That's your supervisor, I said. Former supervisor. She's calling to tell me I'm fired. Union couldn't protect me anymore. He answered the phone, put it on speaker. Yeah. Marcus, if you're not here in the next hour, I have to terminate you. Please. 6 years you've worked here. He hung up without responding. Looked at me. Deal the cards. You need $20 minimum. An older woman at the table, someone's grandmother probably, slid a $5 chip toward him. Here, honey. Marcus looked at the chip like it was salvation and damnation combined. Took it with shaking hands. Thank you. I dealt him 2 eights. He had $22, enough to split them. He split. Got a 3 on the first 8, doubled down with his last money. Got a king for 21. Second 8 got a 2 hit. Again, got a 9 for 19. I showed a 10, flipped a 7. He won both hands. See, he said to no one. System works. He played 3 more hands. Won 2, lost 1. Up to $35. Then 40. Then 55. Marcus Townsend. 43 years as a hotel maid. He muttered, like an incantation, lost the next hand. And the next, down to 20 again. No, that's wrong. Evelyn Townsend. He was talking to himself now. She was the maid. I'm the grandson. I'm the disappointment. The woman who'd given him $5 looked concerned. Honey, maybe you should. Take a break. Can't. If I stop now, she died for nothing. He bet his last 20. Got dealt 20. I showed an ace, offered insurance. Never take insurance, he recited, some remembered wisdom from his YouTube videos that I flipped a king. Blackjack. His 20 lost to my 21. He stared at the empty spot where his chips had been. Then, very carefully, he placed his last $2 on the table. For you, he said. Tip. Marcus. My grandmother always said to tip people who work hard. He stood up, walked toward the exit, then stopped. Turned back to the table. 43 years, he said to everyone and no one. She worked 43 years. Then he left. I worked through the weekend after Marcus left, my last shifts before giving notice. Sunday afternoon, a kid named Timothy sat down at my table. 22 years old, fresh community college diploma, $800 of graduation money ready to multiply. I've been studying the game, he told me, eager. YouTube videos, probability charts. I've got a system. Same words Marcus had used 6 weeks ago. Same confident hope. Timothy played perfect basic strategy for an hour. Up $200. The dangerous early wins that convince you the math doesn't apply to you. This is easier than I thought, he said, betting 50 on the next hand. I dealt him 17. I showed a 6, flipped a queen for 16, then pulled a 5 for 21. His face fell. That's unlikely, he said, consulting something on his phone. Happens all the time. He lost the next 3 hands. Down to original 800. Reached for his wallet. I have more in checking, he said. Just need to hit the ATM. I looked at this kid. Same age Marcus was when his grandmother started saving for him. Same belief that discipline plus knowledge equals profit. Your grandmother would want you to keep that money. I said quietly. He froze. What? Whatever you're thinking about withdrawing. Someone who loves you wouldn't want you to lose it here. How did you know about my grandmother? I didn't. It was just probability. Everyone has a grandmother. Everyone has someone who saved for them, sacrificed for them, believed in them. Timothy looked at me, confused, then looked at his remaining chips. Something in my face must have convinced him because he collected his 800 and left. Kevin saw the whole thing. Walked over slowly. Can't be telling customers not to play, he said. Fire me. You're quitting anyway. Monday's your last day. He paused. That was a good thing you did. He'll probably just lose it somewhere else. Maybe. But not here. Not today. Not at your table. I dealt to empty spots the rest of my shift. Thought about Timothy going home with his 800 intact. Thought about Marcus, somewhere with nothing. Thought about all the players over 11 years who'd sat in these same seats. Believing. Crystal stopped by before her shift ended. Heard you're leaving. Monday's my last day. Where you going? Credit union. Teaching financial literacy. She laughed. From taking money to teaching people to save it. Something like that. What about Marcus? Ever hear what happened? No, but that was a lie. I'd driven by the warehouse Friday night. Seen Diane in the parking lot, staring at nothing. Marcus's job was gone. His inheritance was gone. His grandmother's house was gone. Sometimes the math adds up to 0, and you have to figure out what comes after nothing. 3 years passed. I became Gary with a nameplate at Sunrise Credit Union, explaining compound interest to teenagers, helping retirees protect their savings. Safe money. Predictable returns. No one got rich, but no one lost their grandmother's inheritance either. Sarah sent Christmas cards from Columbus. Her daughter Grace had my eyes, though Sarah never acknowledged it in the brief notes. Grace's walking. Grace loves dinosaurs. Each card a small knife of what could have been. I Googled Marcus monthly. Nothing. No LinkedIn declaring recovery. No obituary confirming the worst. Just absence, like he'd walked out of the casino and evaporated. The Riverside Casino expanded. Added a hotel, a concert venue, more machines, more tables. More ways to lose. I drive past sometimes, see the parking lot full, know that inside dealers were watching new Marcuses lose new inheritances. Thursday morning, sorting through credit. Union Mail. I found a familiar name on a loan application. Diane Shun, applying for a small business loan. Under current employer, Brennan Logistics, union president. I called her. This is Gary from the casino. I remember. Her voice was careful. You dealt to Marcus. How is he? Long pause. Why do you want to know? I think about him sometimes. What happened after? After was hard. Homeless for a while. His uncle finally took him in, but there were conditions. Rehab. Gamblers Anonymous. No access to money for a year. Did it work? Define work. Is he okay? He's alive. Clean for 2 years. Works in our warehouse again, entry level. I hired him back against everyone's advice. Why? Because his grandmother would have wanted someone to give him another chance. And because addiction isn't a moral failing, it's a disease. Would it be appropriate to contact him? No. Part of his recovery is avoiding triggers. You're a trigger. The whole casino world is a trigger. She paused. But I'll tell him you asked. That might mean something. We processed her loan. Approved it. She was expanding the union's financial literacy program, teaching warehouse workers about predatory lending, payday loans, gambling addiction, the things that eat people from the inside. Friday afternoon, local news ran a story about Brennan Logistics workers winning a major union battle. Better wages, better benefits, better protections. There was video of the celebration. In the background, for maybe 2 seconds, I saw him, Marcus, older, thinner, wearing a supervisor vest, wedding ring on his finger. He was clapping for something off camera, smiling a careful smile. I paused the video, studied his face. He looked like someone who'd survived something unsurvivable, like someone who'd learned the math the hardest. Way possible. I thought about calling Diane again, asking for details. Who did he marry? How did he rebuild? Does he ever think about those 6 weeks? But I didn't. Some stories don't need endings. Sometimes survival is enough. The credit union announced its annual fundraiser, Casino Night, fake chips, play money, proceeds for financial literacy programs. They needed volunteer dealers. I said yes. Saturday evening, teaching blackjack to people who couldn't really lose. A mother brought her teenage son Brandon, showing him the basics. Never split tens, she told him. Never take insurance. And remember, the house always wins. Brandon rolled his eyes. Then why play? Good question, I said, dealing his cards. But he played anyway. Carefully, protecting his fake chips like they mattered. Counting cards, calculating odds, learning the weight of money before it could crush him. His mother watched, proud and protective. He's good at math, she said. Wants to study engineering. Math's important, I said. But the most important thing is knowing when to walk away. Even when you're winning. Especially then. They played for an hour. Brandon turned his $1,000 dollars into $1,500, then $2,000. Then lost 5 hands in a row, down to $1,200. This is rigged, he complained. It's math, I said. The longer you play, the more certain the outcome. So don't play long. Don't play at all. But if you do, decide what you're willing to lose before you start. When you hit that number, walk away. No matter what. His mother thanked me when they left. You're good at explaining things. I had good teachers. After they left, I dealt to an empty table. Muscle memory, cards falling in patterns. The fake chips meant nothing, but the motions were the same. Deal, collect, deal, collect. The rhythm of loss. A man sat down. 50s, tired eyes, nervous energy. I don't really know how to play, he admitted. I explained the rules. He bought in for fake thousands, bet it all on the first hand. It's not real money, I reminded him. I know, but I need to see what it feels like. He paused. My brother's an addict, gambles everything. I'm trying to understand. I dealt him 19. Strong hand. Dealt myself 20. That's what it feels like, I said. You do everything right and still lose. Why do people keep playing then? Because sometimes you do everything right and win. And that feeling erases 100 losses. He played a few more hands, thoughtful and sad. My brother lost his kids' college funds last month. His wife's leaving. He keeps saying he can win it back. He can't. I know. But knowing doesn't help. He left his fake chips on the table. Thanks for explaining. After the fundraiser, I drove past Riverside Casino. Parking lot full like always. In one of those cars, someone was probably staring at their last $20, convincing themselves they could turn it into 40. I wanted to walk through that parking lot, knock on windows, tell them all about Marcus. About 47,000, becoming $17. About grandmothers who saved for decades. About the math that never lies. But they wouldn't listen. They never do. Until the money's gone. Driving home from the fundraiser, I saw him. Not Marcus. I'd learned to stop looking for Marcus in every desperate gambler, but someone who could have been. Same age, same posture of defeat, sitting in a car at Riverside Casino, staring at something in his lap that I circled the parking lot 3 times. 4th time, I stopped. The man was holding chips. Maybe $500 worth. His phone was buzzing with texts he wasn't reading. In the passenger seat, a pharmacy bag. Wedding ring on the dashboard that I walked past slowly. He looked up. Our eyes met through the windshield. You okay? I mouthed that. He nodded quickly, looked away, put the ring back on, started his car, drove away with his 500 in chips, either heading home or to another casino. No way to know. I stood in that parking lot where Marcus had stood with binoculars, where Diane had come looking, where Tanya had cried, where 100 other stories had ended or begun. Decided to go inside. The casino hadn't changed much. New carpet, same patterns. New machines, same sounds. The smell of hope and coffee and air conditioning that never turned off. Crystal was working the floor now, supervisor vest, managing dealers who looked impossibly young. Gary? Holy shit. She hugged me, surprising us both. What are you doing? Here. Nostalgia tour. Missing the life. Not even a little. She walked me through. Past my old table, where a new dealer was taking someone's inheritance $20 at a time. Past the high-limit room where Marcus had tried to multiply grief into equity. Remember that guy? She asked. The one who lost everything? Marcus. That's right. Saw him on the news. Some union thing. Looked good. Healthy. Yeah, I saw that too. We get at least one like him every month. Sometimes I try to warn them. Subtle like. Never works. We stopped at employee break room. Still the same fluorescent. Despair, same vending machines, same safety posters no one read. Found something last month, Crystal said, digging through lost and found. Think it might have been his. She handed me an envelope. Inside, a photograph. The 1987 Employee of the Month picture. Evelyn Townsend in her Marriott uniform, smiling, proud of recognition that came with a $50 bonus she probably saved. How do you know it was his? He used to show it to everyone. Dealers, players, anyone who'd look. Said she was the hardest working person he'd ever known. I held the photo. Evelyn, forever frozen in 1987, forever Employee of the Month, forever. Unaware that her grandson would lose everything she'd saved in 6 weeks of believing he could beat math. You should mail it to him, Crystal suggested. I don't have his address. Diane might. She still calls sometimes, checking if any of her workers are becoming regulars. She does. Every month. Like clockwork. Good woman. I took the photo. Thanks. I kept Evelyn's photo for a week before deciding what to do with it. Not mail it. That felt like reopening wounds. Not throw it away. She deserved better. Finally, I framed it. Cheap frame from Target, but respectful. Set it on my kitchen windowsill where morning light would hit it. She smiled at me while I made coffee. This woman who'd saved quarters in coffee cans. Who'd walked to work to save bus fare. Who'd raised her grandson after everyone else left. Who'd died believing her 43 years of work meant something. They did mean something. Just not what she'd planned. Wednesday, I got a call from an unknown number. Is this Gary? The voice was familiar but different. Steadier. Marcus? Yeah. Hi. Diane said you asked about me. 3 years of wondering compressed into awkward silence. I wanted to know you were okay. I finally said. I'm in recovery. 26 months clean. GA meetings twice a week. Married my sponsor's daughter, which everyone says is a terrible idea, but it's working. That's good. That's really good. I wanted to apologize. For that morning at your apartment. For accusing you of dealing seconds. For all of it. You don't need to. Yes, I do. Part of the program. Make amends. He paused. You tried to help. That thing you said about knowing when to walk away. I should have listened. No one listens until they're ready. Yeah. Another pause. Diane says you work at a credit union now. Teaching financial literacy. Trying to. That's good. That's important. His voice caught slightly. My grandmother would have liked that. Marcus, I dream about her sometimes. She's at the casino, playing my chips, losing everything. And she keeps saying it's okay, baby. It's just money. But it wasn't just money. No, it wasn't. Anyway, I should go. Lunch break's almost over. Marcus, wait. I have something. Your grandmother's employee photo from 1987. Crystal found it. Long silence. Keep it, he finally said. I can't. I'm not ready for that. Okay, but maybe someday. When I hit 5 years clean. Maybe then. I'll keep it safe. Thanks. And Gary? That kid you warned away from the table. Timothy something. He came to my GA meeting last month. Said a dealer saved him from losing his graduation money. Small world. Is he okay? Getting there. Caught it early, thanks to you. After he hung up, I looked at Evelyn's photo. Told her about her grandson. 26 months clean. Married. Working. Surviving. She kept smiling. Frozen in 1987. Proud of her Employee of the Month certificate, unaware of all the pain and redemption coming down the timeline. That night, I wrote Sarah a letter. Actually wrote it this time, actually mailed it. Told her about Marcus's recovery, about teaching financial literacy, about keeping Evelyn's photo, about being proud of her for having the child we couldn't have together. She texted a week later. Just, thank you. Grace looks like you sometimes. It was enough. 3 more years passed. I became senior financial counselor at the credit union. Sarah's daughter Grace started school. Marcus hit 5 years clean. I knew because Diane told me when she renewed her business loan. The casino added another tower, more rooms for people. To lose money in private. One morning, reading news on my phone, I saw the article. Brennan Logistics Union wins historic victory. Largest wage increase in industry history. Benefits expanded. Addiction treatment covered fully. There was a photo. Diane at the podium. Jerome somewhere in the crowd. And in the background, partially visible, Marcus. Supervisor vest. Wedding ring. Same careful smile, but steadier now. Real. I studied the pixels, looking for traces of those 6 weeks. They were there in the lines around his eyes, the slight hunch of his shoulders. You don't lose everything without carrying marks. But he was there. Working. Contributing. Living. I thought about reaching out. Telling him I still had Evelyn's photo. That 5 years was a milestone worth celebrating. That surviving what he survived was its own kind of miracle. Instead, I went to work. Helped a young woman open her first savings account. She had an envelope of cash, said it was inheritance from her grandmother. How much? I asked. 8,000. Not much, but she saved it working as a cafeteria lady. 30 years of lunch money. That's significant. What do you want to do with it? Save it. Maybe. School. Definitely not gambling. She laughed nervously. My dad lost everything that way. I watched it happen. I helped her set up the account. Automatic transfers. Compound interest. The slow, boring math of money growing safely. Your grandmother would be proud. I said when we finished. How do you know? Anyone who saves for 30 years wants that. Money to mean something. Education means something. She left with her deposit slip. $8,000 safe from temptation. I thought about all the grandmothers, saving quarters, walking to work, eating peanut butter sandwiches. All that sacrifice turning into chips, into losses, into lessons learned too late. That evening, I looked at Evelyn's photo one last time. This woman who'd saved $47,000, whose grandson lost it all, who never knew her sacrifice, would eventually lead to his salvation, just not the way she'd planned. I wrapped the photo carefully, addressed it to Brennan Logistics, care of Marcus Townsend. Inside, a note. 5 years is something. Your grandmother would be proud. I never heard back. Didn't expect to. Some stories end with silence. But Diane told me later that he received it. That he keeps it on his desk. That sometimes new workers ask about it, and he tells them, that's my grandmother. She worked 43 years to save money I lost in 6 weeks. Now I work to make sure that doesn't happen to anyone else. The math remains the same. House edge is house edge. Time is time. Most people lose, but sometimes, rarely, impossibly, necessarily, someone walks away. Not winning, just walking, still breathing, still trying. That's the only jackpot that matters. The photo catches morning light in Marcus's office now. Evelyn's still smiling, still proud. The money's gone, but something else remains. The weight of love, measured in years of sacrifice, lost and lost and found again. Some inheritances can't be spent. Some debts can't be paid. Some stories don't end. They just stop mid-hand. With $17 on the table and 43 years of love demanding you stand up and walk away. And sometimes, against all odds, you do.